Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome you to the conference From Awareness to Action, Uniting Efforts to Address the Attendance Crisis, sponsored by Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the Center for Advanced Studies in Child Welfare in the School of Social Work at the University of Minnesota. My name is Dr. Tracy Laliberty, and I'm the Senior Executive Director for the Center, which we also call CASHU. As we begin our time together today, we acknowledge that our university and the land in which it's located is the unceded, traditional, ancestral, and contemporary land of the Dakota people, who are the first people of Minnesota Makoche. By offering this land acknowledgement, we not only affirm tribal sovereignty, but also work to hold the university, ourselves, our learners, and our partners accountable to Indigenous peoples and nations. Additionally, we make a labor acknowledgement to affirm that the culture, economic vibrancy, and the growth of the United States was created through enslaved labor and the sacrifices of Black Americans and their ascendants. Each of these acknowledgements are critical elements in the work that we do in both education and child welfare, knowing that the horrors of human trafficking, violence, and trauma are part of the history and the area in which we practice, in which we choose to be allies, helpers, and educators. May history teach us as it demands to change our practice. As many of you know, the Center and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office have collaborated on this conference for the last 11 years. It's kind of hard to believe, 11 years, since 2014. And our aim is to bring together this interdisciplinary group of professionals to learn together, to teach one another through discussions, insights, and experiences. This year, we will engage with one another and our speakers about the attendance crisis we currently are experiencing in Minnesota. Today's conference is made possible by federal Title IV-E funds that come to us from the Minnesota Department of Children, Youth, and Families, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, and supported by the University of Minnesota's College of Education and Human Development and the School of Social Work. Before we begin, a few housekeeping details. We were notified yesterday, you might have seen this in your email, that there's going to be a surprise fire alarm drill over lunch. We don't know exactly when. You do not have to leave the building. There'll be like strobe lights and sound. It shouldn't be too bad. It'll be a little disco going into lunch. You do not need to leave the building. It'll be very evident what it is, and it will be very short. So we'll just all get through that together. The location of the bathrooms is back by where you registered to the right, just past the elevators. If anyone needs a lactation room, that can be arranged at the registration table as well. Conference evaluations will be unlocked at the end of the conference day, and we'll give you more instructions at that point in time. And one other thing to note is that we will be using a Mentimeter technology that uses your handheld devices throughout the day to facilitate table discussions and presentation questions and answers. So again, more instruction will come on that as we go. I would like to recognize Dr. Joan Blakey, Director of the School of Social Work, who is here with us today, as well as Dean Michael Rodriguez, Dean of the College of Education and Human Development. And Dr. Rodriguez is going to say a few words of welcome.
All right, good morning. I am Michael Rodriguez, Dean of the College of Education and Human Development, a professor in educational measurement, and director of the Minnesota Youth Development Research Group. Some of you may know me and the work of my group. We do a lot of work with the Minnesota Student Survey. In fact, the last time I was in attendance at the Ed School, I was reporting results from that survey. It is an important vehicle for elevating student voice. Students miss class or school for all kinds of reasons, many of which you know well. Perhaps one of the most perilous reasons for missing class, and something that lack of attendance often leads to is suspension. We know from the Minnesota Student Survey data that students who have experienced in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension are 3 or 4 more times likely to have experienced homelessness, have parents who have been in jail, have changed schools in the last year, used alcohol or drugs in the past year, experienced at least one traumatic event. These students are also less likely to participate in out-of-school activities 3 or more times a day, 3 or more days, I should say, per week, less likely to sleep at least 8 hours per night, or have college goals. We also know that they are twice as likely to be LGBTQ, 4 times likely to be Black, over twice as likely to be American Indian or Latino. We know that students who report to feel safe at school have substantially higher levels of commitment to learning, report much higher levels of teacher and school support, report far lower levels of being bullied or experiencing mental distress. Students who feel safe at school report at least a half-point higher GPA. And as you know, we've seen consistently for well over a decade, 99% of students in every racial and ethnic group in Minnesota report that they plan to finish high school. Our students don't plan to drop out. In fact, in most years of the MSS, the Minnesota Student Survey, there are more American Indian, Black, and Latino students who report they want to go to college than actually graduate from high school. We fail to support our own students in their own goals. The empirical evidence is clear and consistent. There is little cognitive learning for children and youth without social and emotional readiness and well-being. The young people in our care are developing in many ways simultaneously, cognitively, socially. They're developing personalities and identities. These are all intertwined. And not only do they coexist, they co-develop. Facilitating the acquisition of social and emotional competencies, attributes, and skills requires earning children's trust. That trust comes when we recognize and nurture our role as what Jackie Layton calls duty bearers. We are duty bearers in the manner that we respect the dignity and rights of all persons without prejudice to race, religion, color, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, physical characteristics, disability, marital status, family status, age, ancestry, place of origin, place of residence, socioeconomic background or linguistic background. Just think of the myriad of ways people exist and live in our communities. We are duty bearers because we are responsible for protecting their rights. Yes, children have rights. And in most cases, when I encounter a situation where a young person finds themselves in trouble, it often involves the experience of being disrespected or where their rights have been violated. Children's social and emotional readiness and well-being does not begin or end in the classroom. It is affected by many environments. We know that youth have an inherent capacity for positive development that is enabled and enhanced through multiple meaningful relationships, contexts, and environments, where community is a critical delivery system. And perhaps most importantly, youth are major actors in their own development. Youth have the right to be safe from abuse, exploitation, and harm. Youth have the right to health care, education, a basic standard of living. Youth have the right to be heard and have a voice in matters concerning them. And as duty bearers, we have a special responsibility to provide the vulnerable communities, including racialized youth, indigenous youth, youth with disabilities, those rights. And of course, many of us, if not all, take on the challenging roles we find ourselves in our work because somehow it brings us joy. I hope we are always ready to bring that joy to others with whom we work. As we know, children, youth, families, and communities can use all the joy we can bring. And I hope we always find the joy in working with others. I wish I had time to do more work with you today and moving forward, but I have my own community of youth in the College of Education and Human Development, and we are busy preparing for the new school year as well, with lots of uncertainties and horrific rhetoric yet to come, and helping find a way for our youth to find joy in learning and working together. On behalf of the University of Minnesota, I'm happy to welcome you here, and I thank you for your work and all that you do. And I think we all agree every youth in Minnesota deserves the best Minnesota has to offer, and it turns out we have a lot to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Rodriguez. It's now my privilege to be able to introduce to you Kelsey Walton, the Division Manager for Be It School in the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, and she is going to guide us through and MC the rest of the day.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's so good to be here. This is my first Be It School conference, so it's really exciting. Again, my name is Kelsey Dawson-Walton. I'm the Division Manager with Be It School, and we're so grateful for the partnership with the Center for Advanced Studies and Child Welfare. This is the 11th year of the conference, and I have found that this has grown a lot. I think when we were here last doing the walkthrough, Linda said that it was like a small room, the first conference this is in, so it's grown quite a bit. And the focus on school attendance or chronic absenteeism, truancy, whatever term you use, has become center stage in many conversations in this last year. Be It School is the Hennepin County Attorney's Office statutorily authorized truancy diversion response. It focuses on the underlying barriers which cause poor school attendance. In addition to these barriers, all students, families, caregivers, school partners, community partners, all of us are still dealing with the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, the learning disruptions which occurred, and the ripple effect of the murder of George Floyd that happened in our own backyard, on all of our communities. It's still felt, and it comes out in ways that continues to impact our most treasured investments, which are our young people. That is why Be It School intentionally connects families and our caregivers to many of you in this room, to community resources and supports that build lasting solutions, and we problem solve together on behalf of our young people. So today, one of the things we wanted to do is be really interactive. And so we're going to use a tool, which Tracy mentioned earlier, called Mentimeter, which is an audience kind of engagement tool that we're going to be using. And you'll see in your center kind of what you see, there's a QR code that you can use with your devices that you can scan. And then, is it up there? Okay, right here. And we're going to ask a question of you today. So we're going to kind of get your juices flowing a little bit. Truancy is a critical issue in communities today. True or false? Everybody said, yeah. I mean, it is a simple, it seems on the surface that it's, a simple question, but we all know, I think everybody in this room can say it's very, very complex. And we are able to do this work because, right now we do have, our county attorney, Mary Moriarty, who has set a bold vision, who believes in improving outcomes for youth, who believes in early intervention, diversion, accountability, yet most importantly recognizes deep systemic disparities our young people and their families and caregivers are facing, which adds to the complexities and layers of truancy. And that is why we are here today, to talk about the policies and to talk about the actions we can take to address chronic absenteeism. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty.
I want to welcome you to the annual Be at School conference. I also want to welcome, I know some of our Hennepin County commissioners are planning to be here, and I want to thank them for their support of this program. This event has not only sold out, but there's a waiting list, which is an indication of how deeply people in our community care about education and the attendance crisis we are here to address. As Hennepin County Attorney, I'm proud that our office includes the Be at School team, which is sponsoring this conference with the University Center for Advanced Studies in Child Welfare. It's a natural pairing for the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. We want to keep children out of a legal history of inequity. We want to be our young becoming system. We want to end this line because that will keep all communities and families safe. When I became county attorney, I knew Be at School was the office's truancy diversion program, but I really didn't know much else about it. I quickly learned that it was kind of tucked into another division. Some of its budget, money set aside for its budget was often sent to other places in the office, and it wasn't really valued as much as other work in the office. Despite that, I also learned that our Be at School team members were doing amazing work. So big hand, I see some of you here, big hand to them. So under my administration, Be at School is designated as its own separate division. We have put more resources into the program's budget, and we consider their work critical to reducing the numbers we see in youth prosecution and adult prosecution. A few facts about Be at School. Our team evaluates the needs of students and families and connects them to early interventions with trusted partners, which is critical. Kids referred to Be at School must be between the age of 5 and 17 and have at least 7 days of unexcused absences in a school year. The strategies we employ are backed by data, which shows that early intervention is effective, and every single one of you in this room knows that. Youth feel a greater accountability to relationships than they do to external authority. I'm actually going to embarrass our deputy, Sarah Davis, who we were fortunate to hire from the Legal Rights Center. I have heard her say youth are more accountable to relationships than rules so many times. It's in my head, and I think of it all the time. It's a simple concept, but it's true. You can't disappoint a rule, but you sure can disappoint your mom, your dad, your grandma, or your auntie. And everybody here knows that, right? So when kids are referred to Be at School, most have no current connection to other county resources. That's a little surprising when you consider that several factors contribute to school absences, such as experiencing homelessness and food insecurity. So does poverty, domestic violence, mental health, substance use, and lack of childcare or transportation. Kids may face bullying. They may not have clean clothes to wear to school. The pandemic, as Kelsey said, caused attendance rates to plummet. Schools saw a real downturn in attendance during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly here, following the murder of George Floyd. These were events that deeply and adversely impacted education. The racial disparities are alarming. To give an example from the 2023-2024 school year, Black and African American students represented 51% of the total unexcused absences, despite being only 13% of Hennepin County's population. We need to address these underlying barriers to school attendance. As county attorney, I feel an urgent sense to do so. Attendance is a predictor of success. In Chicago public schools, for example, each week of absence per semester in 9th grade is associated with more than 20% decline in the probability of graduating from high school. And we can clearly see the long-term effects of low school attendance on a young person's sense of belonging, school success, mental health challenges, substance use, and committing nonviolent and then violent offenses. It is unfortunately a direct route to the criminal legal system, or to criminal legal system involvement for far too many children. As county attorney, I have read way too many. I mean, one is more, but the reports that I read about a young person who has taken a life. Each and every one of those young people had a lengthy history of trauma. Each and every one of them missed weeks and months of school. And I firmly believe that none of them would be where they were had we effectively intervened earlier in their lives. This underscores the importance of the work that you are doing. I know, and I can tell you this from my experience, fewer people would be facing the loss of a loved one if we had more effective intervention and prevention strategies. That's what makes this work so critical. We all know that children's brains are still forming. Once again, I'm going to embarrass Sarah. Sarah talks a lot about how children are not mini adults, right? They're not young adults, they're children. If they are not in school, instead they may be out there making poor decisions. All of us made poor decisions as young people, right? But unfortunately, some of them, particularly in our Black and Brown communities, lead to system involvement. A punitive response will not solve this complex issue. Rather than seeking to be punitive, we need humane and a collaborative response that helps us to identify what kids, parents, and caregivers might need. We need to partner with schools, families, caregivers, community partners, and government agencies to change this picture. Schools alone cannot address all of these systemic barriers. Schools should not be asked to address all of these systemic barriers. When we met with school board chairs and superintendents last year, they talked about the lack of resources they had to even identify the young people who weren't in school, much less reach out and try to provide the resources that they needed. That's why partnerships like the ones you are forming today matter. When we successfully address these issues early, together, we can improve the range of possible outcomes for students, their family, and caregivers, and our communities. People sometimes say to me, I hear this quite a bit, Be It School and some of our other prevention work should not live in the prosecutor's office. This is a fair point. Historically, prosecutors have prosecuted, right? They bring people into the system, they prosecute. And we sure prosecute a lot of people who don't look like me. So that's a fair assessment. But here's the other thing. Until every school has enough resources to identify and help young people who are struggling, until we are fully funding community resources that we know are already doing the work, we in the Hennepin County Attorney's Office are going to step up and we are going to do our very best part here. Everyone in this room recognizes that absentee is a problem, but the focus of today's conference goes much further, turning our awareness into action. The momentum we create today is going to create an impact. We will leave this space excited about the possibilities. And when we come back together in the future, we will share our experiences and challenges to help learn and improve our work even more. It's a privilege to be in this room with all of you, sharing our ideas and our strategies in the service of our communities and the students in our school. Together, we can end the school-to-prison pipeline and improve our communities for kids and families. Thank you. So we're all going to go back to the technology. You all had one practice at it, right? We're going to do some tabletop introductions first. So introductions. Pronouns, agency, role. So I'm Mary Moriarty, she, her pronouns. I am the Hennepin County Attorney. So if we could do just a minute of table introductions, that would be wonderful. I am honored to introduce two of our state's state commissioners who are here today. Minnesota Department of Education Commissioner Willie Jett, who leads an agency of more than 420 employees dedicated to improving educational achievement for children from pre-K through grade 12, as well as adult education and library services. Commissioner Jett has been a teacher. I'm told he was Kelsey's teacher at one point. Coach, parent, administrator, superintendent, and has seen firsthand the importance of school attendance and educational outcomes, and understands the challenges and strengths of all communities. And his career is characterized by a commitment to raising student achievement and closing opportunity gaps. Joining him is Commissioner of the newly formed Department of Children, Youth, and Families, Tiki Brown. Prior to her recent appointment, Ms. Brown was Assistant Children and Family Services Administration Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Human Services in 2021. She previously served as the administration's Economic Opportunity and Nutrition Assistance Director. Commissioner Brown is now leading this new department that is putting children at the center of state government, focused on elevating children and families in policy and budget decisions to advance equitable outcomes for children, youth, and families through transformative, partnership-driven policies, programs, and practices. Having both agencies and leaders represented at this conference underscores the critical importance of this collaboration. Along with my office here in Hennepin County Attorney's Office, we are committed to addressing the barriers around chronic absenteeism and student attendance. It is clear that no single agency or government body can tackle these issues alone. We must come together to understand who is being impacted and why, and how we can come together to support the young people we serve. With that, please join me in welcoming Commissioners Willie Jett and Commissioner Tiki Brown.
Good morning. Oh, come on now. Let's try that again. Good morning. That's much better. And it's funny because yesterday afternoon, I was sitting right here, speaking at the LEAD conference. And so it feels to me like I should have just stayed the night. I'd first and foremost just want to say thank you for joining us to address the attendance crisis. When Mary first said that I was going to be up here and she mentioned that Kelsey Dawson Walton was here, I just want you all to know that she was an outstanding student. In the last month, I've had to attend different conferences across the country, and everybody calls it chronic absenteeism. But I love the fact that here in Minnesota, we call it the attendance crisis. Now, slide 2, because I'm not driving this because I can't drive and talk at the same time. So, chronic absenteeism, as you were all tested on a few minutes ago, it's defined as missing 10% or more of school days in a year. It's a national issue affecting students and families. And in Minnesota, 26% of students were chronically absent in the school year 21-22. As you know, chronic absenteeism leads to poor academic performance, higher dropout rates, and negative life outcomes, such as poverty and poor health. It is no surprise this issue does not affect all groups equally. As shown there in the graph, there are significant attendance disparities among different racial groups here in Minnesota. And I want you just to take a look at that. Okay. We at the Department of Education believe that tackling chronic absenteeism requires addressing the root causes. It's a systematic issue needing systematic and systemic solutions and collaboration across all levels. That's school, that's district, that's regional, and it's state. This is essential. The department has implemented the Minnesota Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, MTSS, for you that don't know that framework, which provides a tiered academic, behavioral, and social-emotional support. MTSS emphasizes data-driven decision-making to tailor interventions, ensuring all students, especially marginalized ones, receive the support that they need. At MDE, we provide guidance, professional learning, and flexible support for system improvement and evidence-based practices. And through Compass, which is our statewide support system, we assist with MTSS, literacy, math, culturally responsive leadership, climate and culture, and equitable access for student groups. We also guide districts in addressing local challenges with focused support for schools identified through the state accountability system. Also, we are partnering with research organizations to develop a state attendance framework and working with the Student Attendance Pilot Program and Legislative Study Group to support successful programs. We are also excited to announce a pilot program supporting districts in developing strategies to improve attendance. 12 districts, led by Minneapolis, will collaborate and report on their work. The department will support this program through meetings, data assistance, and professional learning, using insights to enhance ongoing support through Compass. And we applaud this collaborative effort and truly are grateful. As districts partners, they will help us find effective solutions that we can all do together. A student attendance and truancy, for me as a supposed, and I say supposed, former teacher, educator, counselor, coach, however you might want to call it, school needs to be a place to be. Okay, it needs to be a place where kids can see themselves. It needs to be a place where their spirit is supported, where it's loved up, where they can't wait to be in school. And I think that's, and I'm talking from a school aspect, but I think everybody in this room has a real part to that. And so that's just me talking, that's not a slide talking, that's just somebody who's sitting there saying, we need to love our kids up. And school is a place to do that. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm sitting there looking at Kelsey and I'm saying, was school a place to be, or is Mr. Jett's class someplace that she didn't mind attending? I'll ask her later. Now I want to acknowledge the excellent work that's done by school districts to support families and ensure student engagement. Research shows positive actions improve attendance. We all know that. Thank you for fostering positive environments for our Minnesota school students. And efforts like district pilot programs and engagement with Compass will help us understand effective strategies to increase attendance and reduce absenteeism through systemic change and individualized support. You, and I need to make sure I look you in the face as you're out there, you play a vital role in solving this issue for students in Minnesota now and beyond. And so finally, I just want to thank you for all your work addressing this challenge. Now see, some people don't know, when people sneak up behind you, and you can't see that somebody snuck up behind me, but my peripheral was there, and somebody came across over there, I was looking for the exit, okay, just so you know. But thank you for all your work addressing this challenge with empathy and determination. We need to roll up our sleeves together, whether you're an attorney for the county, a county official, an administrator, a teacher, a social worker, a parent, a community member, or a law enforcement officer. Every child deserves the opportunity to succeed and to thrive and to feel good about self.